Holy balls, we're back with another episode of World 1-1 Podcast. I am, as always, your host, Larry the Bearded Wonder. Joining me this week are my good friends, Michael Grumpy Pants.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Josh Shipping Delay LeGrew.
Yep, that's me.
Where's my stuff, LeGrew?
He doesn't have your shit. I'm the one waiting on your shit.
I know.
I just get the blame for it. It's like normal.
Michael apparently just forgot where he ordered his games from.
Par for the course.
So, as always, before we sink into all the fun shit, you can find us on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I keep wanting to say iTunes, but iTunes is dead, so fuck iTunes. YouTube, and there's a delightful Twitch channel, which we might actually be on doing some stuff later tonight, as a matter of fact. Okay. But that's neither here nor there. But in any case, so let's jump into, because we were pre-roll talking some stuff and cut it short so we could save it specifically for oh my god video games. Michael, you've played stuff. Tell me, I want to know.
As I was saying earlier, I finished Immortals: Phoenix Rising. Basically, like, with a few minor exceptions, I pretty much 100%ed it. And this game did everything right. Like, the simple fact that you create your character from the very start, and the entire story is told from the perspective of Prometheus telling Zeus a story. And it's, as I said, it's just everything is done right. Like, it's specifically done to where when you create your character, the gender doesn't matter. Like, no matter what, your character's name is Phoenix. It's just how it is. Whether you make a male character, female character, there are little, the gameplay itself is very Breath of the Wild. From what I understand, they also borrowed heavily from some of the later Assassin's Creed games. I wouldn't know. I've never actually played any of them. But it all worked. Like, there were very few things that were clunky or anything like that. My favorite aspect of the game, though, is the quirks to it. Like, for instance, in the Hall of the Gods, where you upgrade everything, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like Breath of the Wild, when you got the what was it? The spheres from the shrines. You use that kind of stuff to power up your stamina, to power up your, how many arrows you can carry, all that. And every time you put, sink some in to actually power it up, there's this little kind of, like, for instance, when you do when you power up your stamina, there's like a Zeus's weight bench that she has to use. And so she does this whole montage of working out, like with Hermes, who is kind of your sort of pseudo companion helping you through. He kind of sarcastically is poking fun at you the entire time. As I said, every single thing that you upgrade, there's this little montage of her making it better. And it was always enjoyable. Like, as I said, I had a lot of fun with this game. And I know there's DLC coming for it that I'm actually really looking forward to, because it's not just, hey, here's an extra mission. Apparently, it's like one of them is going to delve into an entirely different, like Eastern religions, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, which...
Okay, that's news to me, and now I'm way more excited to sink into this, because I picked up a copy.
Yeah, you should check it out, as I said, because it's Breath of the Wild without the parts that made Breath of the Wild tedious. Especially,
what would you classify as those bits?
Like, they streamlined the glider aspect. Like, you get Icarus's wings very early on in the game. And first of all, they allow you to double jump at any point. Second, not only can you glide, but once you unlock it, you unlock the boost glide, which allows you just to glide farther and faster so long as you have the stamina to allow it.
Hmm.
They streamlined a lot of the things from, that Breath of the Wild basically started with. As I said, like, I just enjoyed the shit out of this game. I'm really looking forward to the DLC. I know the first one apparently is supposed to drop sometime in a couple weeks, and they're supposedly every month afterwards. There's going to be 3 of them. What else? Like,
They can hold that release schedule. I'm impressed.
yeah, I'll believe it when I see it type situation. I also
Mhm.
like I managed to get the game on sale, and I also but I ended up paying for the season pass, which cost me the same as the game, which that's a little salty to me. But if it really is a whole nother, area type situation, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, depending on how much content is there in comparison to the game.
I
The
think the
base
thing
game.
that as I said, the story is fantastic. It's a lot of fun because it's Greek pantheon, but it's very tongue in cheek. Like, for instance, the first time they say Hercules, like, they don't say Hercules because his name is technically supposed to be pronounced Heracles.
Mm-hmm.
And when the first time they say it, Heracles, Zeus says yes because that's the way it's actually pronounced. And as I said, it's very tongue in cheek like that. I really had a good time. But I think one of the best aspects is they did a New Game Plus for it. And New Game Plus, you keep everything. The only thing that happens is you lose the map and everything resets. However, like all the gates of Tartarus, which is basically the shrines of this game, they all reset, but you still have all the power-ups and everything you were already carrying, which means you can get everything again and continue making your character stronger.
Okay.
So it's like a New Game Plus in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's just like there are multiple. So far, I think I found 24 different mounts. The mounts aren't as difficult to get in this as they were in Breath of the Wild, but they also don't mean as much since you can glide everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think I really ever fucked with the horses in Breath of the Wild. Honestly,
I didn't either. Honestly,
No,
I caught them.
like
but
one or two just for shits and giggles
Just
because
to
I wanted
have
to see
them.
like the skeleton one.
Yeah, I
Right.
got the skeleton one, and I got
Like
the. Did you get the giant one?
Oh, you mean the what is it? The King of the Mountain?
Yeah, the giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I managed to catch him and actually stable his ass. Which is, I'm sure is funny because he looked like he barely fit in that stable.
Right.
And then of course I got Epona just from the the amiibos, but
yeah,
right.
Yeah, as I said, it never occurred to me to use the mounts because I was just running everywhere. I don't care.
Yeah, it was fucking fun. Which I mean, I give them that. It's like they made a world that was more fun to, actually walk around and soak in rather than just, want to blitz through.
Right.
So
I will say with Phoenix Rising, the one aspect I thought was kind of meh is I managed to catch a Pegasus and it cannot fly.
Aw.
The only time it opens its wings is if you jump it off a cliff. It'll glide down to the ground.
I don't know. Maybe it's a cursed Pegasus.
I guess. I do have a black unicorn, though.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. And the only real difference in any of the mounts is how much stamina they have to gallop. But
nothing all that critical.
Yeah. As I said, like, everything you get is story-based, and as I said, it all works. It meshes very well. Like, I think actually once you start playing it, I think you're going to enjoy the shit out of it.
I probably will. I need to.
It's also very lighthearted game. Like, it's not one of those because I said I just got done with Ghost of Tsushima before that.
Right.
And it was a great game, but very heavy.
Yeah, it's a serious game.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
this
serious
game is
people,
not.
serious game, serious shit going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else been grabbing you that you've been playing the last week?
No, not really. Like I said, I poured about 70 hours into Phoenix Rising.
Nice.
There were, as I said, one of my other favorite parts is not all of the gods are represented in the game, just specific ones. But once you introduce them to the Hall of Gods, they'll, in the background for no reason, just start snarking at each other. Or like Aphrodite will constantly make shady comments about what you're wearing and stuff like that.
I support this wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's, as I said, it's really well done. Honestly, I kind of hope they do more with it, like something.
Right.
Because I'm not like this. I don't buy a lot of AAA games.
Yeah.
And like this is kind of put out by Ubisoft. I think this is honestly the first thing by Ubisoft I've ever bought.
Really?
And I'm not a big fan of some of their business practices and things like that. But I was interested enough in the game that I kind of, broke down and bought it anyway when I found it on sale for basically half the price.
You didn't do any of the Raymans?
No, I've never even seen one in real life.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, should fix that. If nothing else, you need to. There's a demo for Rayman Legends on the Switch. Go play the demo.
Mario style, aren't they?
Yeah, they're side-scroll platformers.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun. They're buttery smooth. They're really good. But the demo actually has one of my favorite parts of Rayman Legends. It has a stage called Castle Rock. And it's kind of an oddball stage because it's one of the only ones that's set to music to where your run and jump and attack are all timed out with the music playing in the background. And it's their weird, like, Raymanish cover of Black Betty.
Okay.
It's awesome.
All right, I may have to check that out.
Go play the demo just for that.
Yeah.
And my gut says you'll probably like the feel of it because it has a really solid, like, just fluid movement feel to it that's very, very gratifying.
I couldn't tell you the last time I played a 2D platformer like that, though.
It's got a lot of
even
personality,
the
too.
Mega Man Zero games, which is probably the closest that I've played in years.
Mm-hmm.
Those were almost more Metroidvania.
Yeah. Well, those might almost be befitting of what we're talking about in the third half.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
I say, I know you know those better than I do. Those are kind of on the fringe of what I tend to lean into. Like, I've done some of it, but I know that's way more your cup of tea than mine. So,
Yeah.
But LeGrew, the fuck have you been playing?
Mainly, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Okay.
I haven't really gotten too much into it, but that's what I've been playing. I like it.
Yeah,
it's good. It's the least Assassin's Creed game I've played. So
it's the what?
It's the least Assassin's Creed game I've played. So it's it doesn't have much to do with like the overarching story of the Animus and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a game. It's just an open world RPG, kind of Breath of the Wild-ish. I like it.
Does that qualify it as a pro or a con then? Like, you
I like
that it gets away from the rest of the story of the series?
Yeah, because I honestly haven't played too many Assassin's Creed games. I have tapped out from a lot of them just because of the overarching story and just kind of mechanics and how much time I got to dig into them. This one, I like it because the first 15 or 20 minutes really grabbed me.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, I can do this. And so when I started playing it, I'm like 2-3 hours in right now. I'm just scratching the surface of it. There's a lot to do. It's a really fun game to play. It's really open world. It takes some of the best parts of like the Assassin's Creed, like Black Flag, for example, with the so far with the boat and everything. You can do some of the boating stuff. There's not too much of like combat yet. I don't know if there's any combat from the boat, for example, but it's fun. I'm having a good time.
Now, you mentioned something that makes me stop and kind of give pause for a minute. You said it managed to actually like solidly grab you in the first 20 minutes.
It did.
Am I the only person at this point that thinks that that's a problem? Just in large part these days is that most games don't see, especially big AAA titles, don't seem to know how to fucking get their shit started in the first, hour max. It's like, if I have to play for more than an hour to get to the hook, to be interested,
to get to the good stuff,
you're doing your shit wrong.
I totally agree with that. And it really bothers me when somebody says, oh, play 15 or 20 hours, then it gets good. I'm like, no, I am not going to sink that much time of my life in there.
I have the same problem with Game of Thrones. It's like, no, it gets good when you get like, half a season. I'm like, no, I don't.
For me, Game of Thrones it hooked me the first episode, but that was just me. So
I got a little farther the last time I tried to watch it on somebody's suggestion again, but I still couldn't. I couldn't get hooked.
Right.
So my brain was like, no, I still don't care. But like, I remember having this thought years ago with Jade Empire on the original Xbox.
Yeah.
And I almost put Jade Empire down. I was right about the hour and a half mark, and I'm like, and then I don't even remember what the fuck it was that happened, but something happened. I'm like, all right, I'm in for this. This now has my attention. But It's like, why can you not set something up to hook me in the first like 20 to 30 minutes?
Yeah, I mean is a problem.
Yeah, and the thing, and I won't say it's exclusive to, but I will say you tend to see it. The bigger the game, the more prevalent that issue is. Like, I play indie games, and most of them I'm right in because they waste no fucking time getting to the point.
Well, if they don't, you're just not gonna play.
Yeah. It's almost like artificial padding.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they're stretching it out.
What could have been a concise gaming experience and just stretched and dragged it out to make it so they could say, hey, our game is 60 hours.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care if your game is 60 hours. How much of that is shit I don't want to play?
I mean, at this point in my life, if a game is shorter, it's actually more enticing to me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I get that quite a bit, actually. Like, I'm sitting on Control right now. I'm sitting on
Control is so good.
Nier Automata. Like, these kind of games that I know I want to check out, but like, do I want to sink that kind of time into it?
So I'll just say one thing about Control. I think honestly, it's a solid 30 hours.
I bought it on your recommendation, actually.
Oh, good.
You said it was really good. You kept talking it up.
I loved it. I love it.
And I managed to find a deal on the deluxe version of it.
Sure, like $20 or whatever.
Yeah. So the moment I'm a sucker for special editions anyway. Like, the moment they say steel case, my ears perk up.
Right.
Same thing happened to me this week with Ida from Super Rare.
Oh, yeah, you got it?
I pulled the trigger. I also actually Ida or Ida?
Ida, ITTA.
It's ITTA, Ida. It's a story-centric bullet hell boss rush game.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna let this one go, I think.
I also actually sprung in for the Super Rare membership for this year.
Oh, wow.
So Ida was a early Valentine's Day gift from Zoe, and so offloading that cost meant I had a few extra dollars to justify the membership. So, but so yeah, but actually on the back of what we were just talking about and kind of what you guys were saying with padding and big games not getting to the point. I started about a week ago playing one out of my recent backlog. I picked it up maybe like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because I'd been eyeballing it and going, I want it, but I kept balking at the price point, and I kept thinking this will go on sale. No, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm pulling the trigger. So I picked up Ghost Runner, and oh my god, so good. Like
Now,
it has go for it.
I was just gonna say I looked at it because you were talking about how good it is, and I'm like, I know it's like $29. I'm like, is that something I want to buy or
I
should
want
I
to
wait?
find out before I actually look into it.
I've only got a couple hours in, and I already feel like I've well got my $29 worth.
Okay, because what I was looking on their website is they have a Series X edition or a update coming, and when they do that, then I think I might jump on it then.
Yeah, so this shit's like hella awesome. Michael, I'm pretty sure you will probably not. This won't be for you, but Josh, I feel like you could totally dig the shit out of this, and I'm betting Dylan would too, actually.
Yeah.
So the best way I can explain it here is one, yes, the price tag is wholly justified. Yeah, it's an indie, but it's like a well done, very high polish first person. And I can't call it a shooter because there's no guns.
Right.
I want to say the best way I can explain it is it's got elements and like bits of feel of Mirror's Edge and Katana Zero and almost Super Hot. It's very quick paced. I like the fact that it's a lot easier. It feels better designed in terms of organically showing you where to go than Mirror's Edge was.
Sure.
Because that was, as much as I loved Mirror's Edge and I love the art direction and the style in Mirror's Edge, it caused that to be a struggle bus issue for that game. That I don't get the feel of that here. This is very much welcome to the scene, ready, set, run, kill shit. And you're running around and you're just fucking slicing through dudes with your sword and running on walls and grappling off of shit. And all of it just feels butter smooth and so good. I'm just like, yeah. And when you fuck up, because again, everything is one hit kills. You have no health bar. Take a hit, you're dead.
Right.
But you've got real quick checkpoints, and the reload is you're just ready to go again. So it's kind of got like that Super Meat Boy Celeste thing, going where it's like short segment, you're going to fuck up a bunch, but you're going to be going again like that. So it gives you that one more time loop feel. It's gotten in my system. The 2-minute opening cinematic is worth 10 out of the $30 of the price tag alone. So, like, holy shit, that was cool. And I'm legit actually starting to get into the story in here too. The story is piquing my interest. So it's really got all the good pieces together.
Right.
Like nothing got left on the floor here. I'm impressed. Like I don't remember I don't remember the last time I got this very excited about something indie in my rotation at this point. I mean, there's some that, I really enjoy and I get up there, but this is getting its claws into me in all the best ways. And it makes me very happy because I'll be at work and I'll be thinking about like where I left off the night before and where I was stuck. I'm like, I'll spend 8 hours of my day at work thinking, okay, I'm going to try this again tonight, but I'm going to try this, and this instead because I think that's where I fucked up.
Right.
So, that's gotten a good hunk of playtime for me. I've been back to repiddling around with Dead Cells, which is, I'd say it's Dead Cells, but again, there's, newish content in there and there's more coming, which has me still excited. I mean, they're on like update 20 something at this point.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and hell, one of the last couple of updates actually included new biomes again. And it wasn't one of the paid updates. One of the free updates has new biomes and pathways. Like there's one called the Distillery where there's like giant explosive barrels that go flying down and around and shit. Including a new weapon you can get, which is literally a barrel launcher, where it's just a big fucking shoulder-mounted cannon, and it launches explosive like oak casks that bounce all over the place. It's
Nice.
kind of great. Yeah, think like bouncy grenades,
Yeah.
but bigger. So everything about that is great. I started pissing around with a game called Mindseize. It's been in my Twitter feed for quite a while, and I keep seeing it while I'm at work going, I'm going to download that. And then I get home and I forget. And I finally fucking remembered. So far, it feels stock Metroidvania-ish. It feels very akin to The Mummy Demastered. That's probably the closest compare. I've got it on my Switch, but I think it's on everything.
What was it called?
Mindseize. So I would give it a peek. Definitely, Michael, it's going to be up your alley. Like I said, it has a look and a feel very akin to Mummy Demastered, which Mummy Demastered was excellent. I'm just kind of curious to see if it pulls together into a full Metroidvania or if it just kind of hits the almost mark, which, again, feels fitting for what we're getting into. Beyond that, my bedtime routine the last couple nights has actually been chime sharp. Has kind of been striking a chord with me, so to speak. I find myself missing terribly the original selection of songs from Chime when it was on the 360. There's more songs in it, but those original songs are not there. And I'm like, no, I want to play those songs.
Right.
Downwell is finally starting to get its hooks into me. I should be fighting that off.
Ever ago and have not touched it yet.
It
was like 30 cents when I bought it.
It's 30 cents well spent.
Yeah.
So it's quick, like 5-10 minute run fun. So and then yesterday and today I in anticipation for today's topic, I've also been playing some SteamWorld Dig 1 again.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, because that game will forever be infinitely replayable to me. Granted, I'm playing it on my Switch as opposed to my 3DS, because that game will probably forever feel the best to me on 3DS. But I didn't feel like fishing out my 3DS and seeing if it was charged. So
It's not.
Actually, it might be.
I don't know if it holds a charge that long.
Mine has held a charge for months.
We're going to find out right the fuck now, because I
got
know.
mine. I bet you mine's been sitting there longer.
I gotta know. I feel terrible. It took me half a second to remember where the power button was. God, I've just lost all respect for myself from that fact.
I'm shocked that you had any to begin with.
Mine actually looks to have about a full charge on it.
Nice.
Bear in mind, I have not touched my 3DS since Samus Returns.
Actually, I'm thinking I might play some of that later tonight. So
I have 3 bars.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, as I said, I have not touched mine since Samus Returns.
Yeah, I don't think mine's charged at all.
I've got so many games on mine too. I really do. Between that and my original DS to play on there. So, which reminds me, Michael, since you've got yours out, did you ever play Scourge Hive on the DS?
No, you loaned it to me forever ago, and I never got around to checking it out.
Oh, you would love Scourge Hive. That's a thing you should put on your list at some point. So,
I did download the first 2 Breath of Fire games on here, though.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. I loved those games.
Right on.
Never beat the second one. Second one's the only one I've never finished.
Any particular reason?
Just something happened and I got sidetracked and never went back to it.
Mm. Okay. But yeah, I think that covers what I've been playing. Downwell is definitely starting to get its hooks into me. Like, it's one of those that it's like, I have 5 minutes. I want to play something. Downwell is turning into that game. So
Since you went back to 60 hours, kicked my ass this week.
Dead Cells?
Yeah, thank you. Are you still messing with Slay the Spire?
I haven't put it in the last couple of weeks, and part of me wants to, because I've finally like hit a major benchmark progress wise with Slay the Spire, and part of me is like, no, leave it alone, or it's all you will play again for another 6 months. Like, that's
really
a dangerous drug to me.
I've been really wanting to check out I think it's called Monster Sanctuary or something like that.
I don't think I'm familiar.
It's a newer game that just recently was released on the Switch. It basically seems like a Metroidvania Pokemon. Like,
what?
Literally,
Really?
all your attacks are you capture and get these creatures to help you fight.
I'm looking it up now.
It seems like something Dylan might be interested in too, because I know he really likes the whole Pokemon type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, it's like Monster Sanctuary or something like that. Yeah, I got my Switch over here. I'm gonna check it out real quick.
Looking this shit up. I also want to pick up Wingspan at some point. I've heard really good things about the board game. Yeah, there it is, Monster Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Okay, $20.
Oh, I'm not crazy. It looked, as I said, it from the sound of things, it's a really good game. I keep hearing a lot of good reviews for it. And I originally wasn't really interested because of the whole Pokemon aspect of it. The collection, the collect 'em all type thing. But I keep hearing I keep hearing that it's actually a really well done game, so I may check it out anyway.
Monster taming meets Metroidvania. Collect, train, and battle monsters in a lovely side view pixel world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This was not on my radar. I'm feeling upset that I was not aware of this, but I'm glad that I have you to tell me.
How much is it going for right now?
20.
I could probably swing that.
It's got
It looks pretty.
It's got a pretty high user reviews.
What's it called? So I've got, like, now that I'm done with Phoenix Rising until the DLC comes out, I got nothing else going on right now, so I may download that when we're done.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Interesting. I feel like this could ride that line for me of pushing me off from leaning more into the Castlevania side of things, just in terms of like RPG management elements. But I'm looking at it going, this looks hella fun too, so maybe? I'm thinking if I can find it on sale, it's on my wish list now. So if I see it on sale for like 10 to 15, I would probably pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hunch. So, but no, I'm glad you said something, because that's now got my attention at least. So, and for the right price, I will jump on that.
I like the aesthetic to games like that too.
Agreed.
Like, so that's why I really enjoyed Monster Boy, I think it was called. Kind of had a similar aesthetic. Monster Boy was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
So, but yeah, that's what I've been playing. So unless anybody's got anything else, we could probably hit the pause button for a minute, freshen our beverage, and come back for the third half of the show, where we're going to be talking about a new term that you can add to your gaming lexicon. So I suppose we may as well take a quick break. And we're back with the third half of the show. This week we're going to deep dive into a topic that is near and dear-ish to me. Came up in conversation in our group chat this past week, and I decided that there is a genre descriptor problem in the industry that affects me directly, and I'm tired of it, so I fucking fixed it.
Yeah,
so
you
we're
did.
talking about it.
All right, so I think we owe it to everybody for you to give a primer on what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, much like the roguelike genre has a subgenre, which is roguelite, I feel that...
I would just like to casually mention I did not know there were roguelikes and roguelites until now.
No, yeah.
So I'll give you a breakdown on that too real quick, just so that you have a point of reference. Roguelikes are pure rogue games where run over run, nothing carries over. It's full fresh start every time. So I would say like Binding of Isaac, is full on roguelike.
Yep.
Dead Cells is roguelite because yes, it's die start over.
But
in attempts to complete the run.
something.
Right.
Like Hades also.
Exactly. There's some permanent progression aspects would be a roguelite. So there is a distinction in those two, and a roguelite would qualify as a subgenre of the roguelike, essentially. Or of the rogue genre. That said, we've talked about it in passing a few times, the fact that, especially amongst the indie scene, that a lot of games like to tag their product as a Metroidvania because it's become an attention-getting buzzword. And frankly, I've come to the conclusion that term is getting misappropriated in a lot of these cases here. Some culprits being Dead Cells, Kunai, a handful of others. And thus, it occurred to me we should have a subgenre of Metroidvania. I'm calling it the Microvania, and it's where So your baseline Metroidvania, for lack of any better way to put it, is essentially what defines it is the center section of a Venn diagram of a Metroid game and a Castlevania game. All those things in that center section that you'll find in both, you have all of those, you have a Metroidvania. If you're missing a piece or two of that center section of that Venn diagram, you have a Microvania. So games like Dead Cells, where it's got some elements thereof in there, but it's not, like one big cohesive world, Microvania. Kunai, Iconoclasts. They don't hit that big interconnected world in a meaningful way. Kunai kind of has that world, but not in a way that's actually pertinent to the world design, where, you're not backtracking for the fact that you couldn't get somewhere that you saw before until you did something later kind of thing. That's not really there in Kunai. It's very linear progression. Thus, qualifies as a Microvania. And frankly, the term needs to stick because it's a better descriptor for a lot of the stuff that's rolling off the indie game assembly line than trying to put everything under the actual heading of a Metroidvania. Because a Metroidvania is something very specific that has to have all those pieces, or at least all those certain pieces, in order to actually hit that mark and be that thing.
Right.
And there are games, and there's a lot of games that come close, and it's not to say that they're bad games by any means, but they're not this thing that they're attaching their label to. So I feel it's worth just differentiating and creating a distinct classification subgenre of. So, like SteamWorld Dig 1 would classify for me as a Microvania. SteamWorld Dig 2, full-blown Metroidvania.
I still need to check those out. I've downloaded them.
Dude.
I just haven't played them yet.
Oh, you'll adore them, dude. You will absolutely. You can do the first one in just a couple of hours. The second one's definitely meatier, but again, the second one actually hits the criteria of a full Metroidvania. The first one, not quite. It's very linear progression, just in a straight line down. So, but yeah, so that's where my head's kind of been at for the last couple days, and I would even venture to say that a Microvania doesn't mean that it's missing any one particular piece of that formula.
It's just missing something.
Right. It's missing one of the ingredients that puts it all the way to a Metroidvania. But I'm curious for your thoughts on this. Like, I want to know, what do you think? Is this superfluous? Because LeGrew at one point in this conversation this week said it feels like gatekeeping, and then he seemed to change his mind.
Well, I always am under the impression that the term Metroidvania is gatekeeping, because you have to know what a Metroid game is and a Castlevania type game is. You have to know the term to use the term. I wish we could come up with a term that doesn't use other games to describe a game.
I was actually going to ask, unlike, for instance, the Switch Network, they don't actually use the term Metroidvania to describe anything, do they?
Right.
They don't actually use that term.
It usually falls under a broader heading of adventure game, but the thing is, adventure is way broad.
And not only that, but adventure games, like what adventure games are, is not what these are at all. I mean, there's a part of it is adventure.
Yeah.
But it's such a small part that I could say it's not an adventure game at all.
And
I think that would be relative. But I know I've been always racking my head with this and figuring I like the term. I like separating them because you're right. There are games that do portions of it right, but not everything right. And there are games that do everything right, and we should segregate those. I don't know. I like the term. I just personally don't like the term Metroidvania, so I'm trying to always figure out what we can call it, but we can't call it anything else.
And that's the thing. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's hell, we've done an episode or two on that subject.
Yeah, we have.
In the last year and a half. And the thing is
there's nothing better. That's what it is.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah. But by the same token, it occurs to me just this moment too. I don't know how much it matters, honestly. Because,
not anymore. I don't think. I think
not just that.
Oh, go ahead.
But I was going to say, on the subject of it feeling gatekeeping, is the fact that you don't really see anybody getting into that genre that's not already in gaming. Like, it's nobody's entry point.
And I get that. And my whole point on it is, how are we going to get new people into this?
Right.
If all of a sudden there's this huge, steep incline of knowledge that you have to know, how are we going to get new people with, and not like scare them off?
Yeah. I don't think anything about it scares anybody off. It's just the fact that it's a very precise term. And I venture to say that it's kind of separating the concept of jargon from technical speech. Yeah. They're really the same thing. It just kind of depends on what side of the knowledge fence you're on. It's not that, if you get somebody that works in engineering, there's a whole slew of terminology that they use that's very specific to engineering, and that terminology exists for a reason, to be specific about a certain thing. But if you're on the outside of that fence of knowledge, then you're like, oh, I can get it. It's just bullshit to me. And so, but the thing is they use those terms because there isn't a better term for it that's understandable, but as specific as it needs to be.
And I think that some of this is just the growing pains of the gaming industry. Like we're coming to grips with, like, maybe this is just the way we do it.
Yeah.
And there are certain things in certain industries and certain aspects of life and certain things that you get into that if you just don't know something, you just don't know it.
Right.
And if you want to get into it, like if I want to get into something that I've never done, I might have to spend 15 or 20 hours researching stuff and learning stuff. So maybe this is one of those things. I just don't know, but I'm always trying to leave it open for people, you know?
Right. I mean, if somebody comes up with a fucking better term that actually works, I'm all for it and I'm on board. But I mean,
no, I like your term
smarter.
for like the Microvania. I love that because it is getting out of this is a Metroidvania, because my main problem with the term Metroidvania was the blanket term it was being used to describe everything.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Dust and Elysian Tale is another one that would fall into that category too, now that I'm thinking of it.
Definitely.
Yep. So, what?
Definitely.
So, and like I said, I suspect now that you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, that, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this too.
Right.
So, but, you know, it's one of those things that I think it matters and it makes a difference. Because if you sell me something with, you know, with the bullet point that it's a Metroidvania and I don't get a Metroidvania, it's not that you made a bad game, but there's a good chance I'm going to knock you points for not being what you told me you were going to be. And then
if you think it is that and it's not, then what are you really looking for in a game?
Right. So, but yeah, I don't know. It felt like a gap in the lexicon that needed to be corrected. And granted, if you go back maybe 10 or 15 years, I wouldn't have said it was a necessary thing, but the direction the industry has moved has essentially created, at least for my money, necessity here. And I haven't seen anybody really fix it or address it until now. So I feel like I've done the gaming world a service. You're all welcome. So, but
when you hear that term, make sure you get credit. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Where's that wiki page?
I know it's on its way.
So, but no, I mean, it just, for me, it felt pertinent. So, and frankly, I would genuinely like to see it catch, because it helps fix it. Because there's plenty of stuff that, you know, again, is in that category or in that subgenre that I'll happily get into, because not every time do I want to work out a whole world map. But, you know, in which case, you know, stuff like Iconoclast and Dead Cells and Dust and all of those are great. There's a right place for those, but it's like, man, you know, we just Zoe and I are coming up on the end of our watch through of Babylon 5 finally, and there's a line in there that has stuck with me for pretty much all my life. It says, if you can't say what you mean, then you can't mean what you say. The devil is in the details. And I think that this is a place where that applies just gratuitously.
Sure.
So, but I'd like to see there be, I suppose at this point it's technically a subgenre, but I'd like to see the label come into commonplace usage where it should, because, you know, and that's the thing. I think a Microvania, you know, labeling stuff correctly under the Microvania heading could be a better could open up as a better gateway into people going, well, I like this.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it had more of this thing. What's the next step beyond this? And go, oh, cool. Metroidvania. That's like this plus this. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree that I think labeling it correctly will help people understand what they like and don't like.
Exactly.
And it would actually elevate, I think, a lot of the other games that maybe you might not want to try.
Right.
But if you like, oh, this just has this aspect and this aspect, and I like that, let's add this one. I think it's valuable.
Oh, I gotta say, I'm glad it's not just me here. Oh, Zeo Drifter. That's another one. 100%. That's another one.
Yeah, one I have not played yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get your copy finally? You ordered one, didn't you?
Yeah, I got it. But, like everything else, it took forever.
Right. Michael, I think you were the one that turned me on to Zeo Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Fucking game I paid $1 for and enjoyed the shit out of.
Yeah. And case in point here, there's nothing wrong with it by any means, but would for your money, would you call it a Metroidvania?
Sorta. Like, not exactly.
See, and that's where the Microvania comes in.
Right.
Exactly what I'm talking about. So, and I honestly, I think Zeo Drifter was probably the game that got me thinking about it to start with. Because I'm like, I know this, like reeks of Metroidvania.
Right.
But it's missing pieces of the recipe here. And I can't bring myself to call it a Metroidvania. And from there, the explosion of titles that attach that word to it, I'm just like, something's not right here. We're missing something.
Right.
So
that what was it? Tahoe Nights, the Luna Nights game that I played recently. That is kind of along those lines too. They touted it as a Metroidvania, but I can't put my finger on it. But it was missing something. Like, I don't know. Icy was kind of along those lines too.
Okay.
Icy was good. I really enjoyed it, but
right,
there wasn't a lot to it.
Yeah. And honestly, part of me thinks, at least for me, and again, I have to stop and remind myself that I am more often than not the exception to the rule as opposed to the rule here. But that said, I would probably more readily and immediately buy a lot of these games for myself if they were properly labeled as Microvanias, because a lot of times I'm like, I hem and haw over it because I'm looking stuff up on it and I'm like, this could be what it says it is, but with the significant tendency of games to not quite be Metroidvanias, but still attach the label, I start hemming and hawing over it. But if the term were in regular usage industry-wide and was used honestly, I would probably hesitate a whole lot less, because I would look at it and go, oh, Microvania, cool. I know what I'm getting into.
I think what you're getting with here is the honesty of the title of the term. So if you go and you buy a soda, you know what that is.
Yeah.
It's a soda. But if I was buying soda and all of a sudden I'm getting sparkling water all the time, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to wait for a while.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But again, part of the problem comes from the fact that, at least insofar as I know and to my knowledge, there was not an accurate term for this issue until it came out of my mouth this week. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give you credit, Larry, because I think you're there.
I solved a problem. Yay. I did a damn good job of it too. But yeah, so that's that's what's been on my brain for a deep dive this week is adding something important to the gaming lexicon. I won't by any means say I created a subgenre. It's there. It just there was no label for
definition. It. That's all.
Yeah. So,
which is just as important.
Now the question is, how do we get it circulating?
We just start talking about it.
YouTube comments.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube comments on NVC, and
yep. So that's it. That's your mission, everybody. When you hear this, start putting it into circulation. So we've listed here games that solidly fit into that subgenre of Microvania. They need to start being labeled and sorted and filed correctly. So it's for your benefit and my benefit, and everybody wins. And frankly, if they're smart, the developers and the publishers will get on it too, because there's a benefit in it for them too. So, because on top of that, they can start differentiating out, and you can start declutterizing, and you can stop the overcrowding of or at least the attempted overcrowding of the Metroidvania space, because a lot of them that are trying to get in and touch that space aren't there, but the constant overusage of that term for marketing purposes makes that space feel like it's way too crowded, when in reality, it's not as full as it appears at a glance. So
right, and that's important.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, there you have it. Closing comments before we get the fuck out of here?
I think it works.
I'm just in awe that it works, and I like it.
I'm proud of me. I'm going to go get a cookie.
Gold star.
That's right. So, but all right. Well, I want to say thank you to both Michael and Josh for coming and hanging out with me this week. You're pleased with yourself now, aren't you?
I really am.
Oh God. And we'll be back next week. If you're hearing this, you are the GOAT here. We appreciate you tremendously for making it this far. And if you've, self-flagellated enough to actually make it this far into the episode, aka the end, then you're clearly a glutton for punishment, and you should come back weekly, which means you should subscribe and or slide us into your RSS feed in the creepiest way possible. So I love that you probably had something horrible to say, but you just roboted out. But yeah, I think we're going to call it a wrap. So everybody say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night.
All right. We'll see you next time. Peace.